Are we seeing the first signs for potential tropical development of the Atlantic hurricane season? Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather. Friday and the weekend are upon us, my friends. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, we still have a lot of active areas to talk about. We have a tropical wave in the central Caribbean. We'll talk about the rain and storms and the winds it's bringing. Still very active conditions out in our western areas. 2 tropical waves in the Atlantic that'll be moving in. And we'll look ahead to, where I think we might be starting to see a little bit better potential organization tropically towards the end of the month. Of course, we've got your live cameras now here at Meteo Mundo to help tell the weather story across the area. We'll get started by letting you know that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, offering free consultation and policy reviews when a storm moves into your area. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. As always, I want to hear from the Meteo Mundo weather community. Let me know what's been happening in your area. What's been going on with the weather here in central sides of the Caribbean? There's our tropical wave. The axis is now west of the ABC Islands. Eric is done, but what it left over to the Pacific side of South Mexico was not good. Landslides, mudslides, significant flooding, a lot of wind damage as well. Our thoughts are with our friends there. Still have some, impacts here in the Yucatan in Central America we'll talk about. There's our 2 tropical waves. One of them will be moving into the Lesser Antilles late this weekend, a second one for next week, and a very complex area south and east of Bermuda, which could have a little bit of a spin. Now, that's not the area that I'm going to be deep diving into later in the video as to, where things might get a little bit more interesting. Let's take a look at the Sahara dust layer right now. Still a little bit of concentration northern side of the Lesser Antilles, Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico through Hispaniola, now eking into my friends in Jamaica. Look, this concentration is not as thick as most areas, but still moderate air qualities in a couple of spots here. And some of that does try and kind of sneak back into the South Central Gulf. So let's get into the story of what's been going on right now. These are current temperatures. And by the way, look, yeah, it's been hot in a couple of spots, but we haven't had the excessive heat in most areas thanks to the extra cloud coverage and the richer tropical moisture and the better just opportunity for some showers to cool things off in the afternoon. But it's also come with a lot of wind. So these are your wind gusts in miles an hour. Now, look, we're not seeing the 50+ mile an hour winds we had yesterday at the Yucatan, but we're still seeing some showers. We're still seeing some storms ramp up. Campeche too. Is it Merida or Merida? I've been told to pronounce it both ways. I always love to pronounce an area how the locals pronounce it, so you guys will let me know. Drop it in the comments section below how you pronounce that city in the northwest Yucatan. I can tell you it's still very windy here along the east side. Cancun, Cozumel, back towards Tulum and Chechbal. Showers and a few thunderstorms as well. Nice little ball of thunderstorms there south of Tulum, and it will continue to be another fairly wet day across Belize and Guatemala as well, both inland and along the coast from Belize City and San Pedro south, Dangriga inland, San Ignacio towards Punta Gorda. We've had some pretty hefty winds across the Bay Islands for today. Nice thunderstorm over Roatan, Utila, Guanaja, Roatan over a 30-mile-an-hour breeze. Very active pattern here again, kind of on the northeast side of the remnants of Eric, but just rich tropical moisture and plenty of lift in the atmosphere. And again, enough instability where it's not just tropical downpours. I mean, it's a fair amount of lightning to go along with this. Look at the storms firing up at the hour. East Honduras back into Nicaragua. Ton of lightning associated with that. More lightning on the Pacific side. They don't need to see that, man. They've had too much rain as it is. Now, it's nice to actually see a little bit drier weather, Costa Rica and Panama for today, but still, look, it's not like it's going to be completely dry. A few heftier thunderstorms are developing in Panama City as we speak. Back up to the north right now, we're trying to swing in a couple of isolated showers or rumble of thunder over the Cayman Islands. Still, relatively speaking, it's been a fairly dry day for us here. And again, can't rule out a little bit of Saharan dust. Air quality values are on the moderate level. Winds are also still significant. I promise you I have the wind gusts on. We're not seeing anything right now as far as like high wind gust values on the weather computer. But there's a lot of small craft warnings, small craft advisories, and for Jamaica, the large wave and strong wind advisory continues for all of the nearshore waters and the offshore waters of the South Coast, including Pedro and Morant Bank. Guess what, guys? We're getting a few more showers and storms developing in western parishes yet again late on this Friday afternoon. Again, it's not as concentrated as it was the last couple of days, but a few isolated showers and storms over the Cambridge area. So, portions of St. Elizabeth, southern St. James, obviously Westmoreland and Hanover parishes, that opportunity is there. Just not as much right now. I'm hoping that we get a few more showers to redevelop even later this afternoon and potentially even overnight with a few spotty showers along the East Coast tomorrow morning. But in the short term, we've just nudged in a little bit drier air, but again, still optimistic that some of this moisture south will eventually eke its way in even a little bit better quality up into Jamaica as we get into the late part of the weekend and early next week. I'll have more on that coming up. Showers and storms are becoming a little bit more prolific right now along the axis of that tropical wave, which has now the north side of that, and again in a kind of a north to south fashion, is right over Hispaniola. Look at the southern coastline right now. Some of the storms are developing and then moving inland. So from Lacaille, trying to cool things off in Port-au-Prince towards Azua, Santo Domingo, Bani, Punta Cana, Santiago de Macorís, the Samana Peninsula, pretty healthy thunderstorms, pretty widespread, heavy downpours. Can't rule out a couple of areas of isolated flooding here. I'm going to just pause this over the last couple of frames. Look at all the lightning strikes. These storms are getting going right now. Look at that thunderstorm there north of Santo Domingo. So we've had, and again, these are just, 15-minute lightning strike counts. So within this view, in a 15-minute time frame, we had 150 lightning strikes. That's some pretty solid stuff. Some of the storms are trying to pass over the Mode of Passage and back into Puerto Rico at the hour. Winds are freshening right now for Ponce towards San Juan and Fajardo. Western sides of the island, Aguadilla, Mayaguez, Arecibo, the areas with the best chance for a passing shower and isolated thunderstorm later this Friday. Utigalto would include in that as well. Potentially even down towards the Yauco area. Central eastern sides of the islands, Vieques and Culebra, will also mainly be dry. Winds are freshening again. St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, my friends in Christiansted. Solid 30-mile-an-hour breeze there. Notice that the mid-level winds are out of the southwest. That's why you see the direction of the clouds moving that way, but surface winds are still of an easterly fashion. So there is going to be a confluence of winds here, meaning that winds are going to be coming together, and along that axis we could still get a few thunderstorms. Now, the better opportunity for thunderstorms, you can see this on the visible satellite imagery, is as the wave marches west, picking up some of those southeast winds and producing better showers and storms there. It's been a relatively quiet day for my friends in the Lesser Antilles, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart, Saba, St. Eustatius, Barbuda, Antigua, Montserrat. Not a bad day. Still a little bit of cloud coverage across the area. Not in the way of a lot of wind. Temperatures have been quite lovely for today. A lot of mid and upper 80s Fahrenheit. 29, 30, 31 degrees Celsius at most. Looking pretty good in Guadalupe. A little bit more of a brisk east wind down here towards Dominica and areas south. Still cloudier skies as well. Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, elevated marine conditions. And of course, I've waited long enough. I got to take you to one of our live cameras here at Meteo Mundo. Corinth, St. Lucia, you are looking live on this late Friday afternoon. I got to tell you, this has been the story about the last 5 or 6 days here in St. Lucia. They've had mostly cloudy, if not overcast skies. They've had fairly brisk winds. Not a lot of rain. We've had some passing downpours, but just not a ton of sun there in the St. Lucia area. Going to try and get you a little bit more sun tomorrow and maybe early on Sunday before the next tropical wave moves in and provides yet another cloudy, somewhat rainy forecast. Be the same situation for Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines as well. Back down towards TNT, a little bit of extra cloud coverage and trying to pop off a couple of showers and an isolated thunderstorm in Trinidad as we speak. You can see some of that heavier moisture back in there. Port of Spain had a 25-mile-an-hour wind gust a little bit earlier. When I zoom out this image, we have some localized storms developing here, southern side of the Windward Islands, northern sides of South America, Suriname and Guyana included in that. But we have 2 additional tropical waves out here, boom and boom, that'll be working its way in. Now, again, these are still low latitude. They're going to mainly affect the Windward Islands, but more moisture is coming back in with just more unstable conditions. You want to talk about a breeze? We've still got that in the ABC Islands. The winds are howling right now. Aruba, 35-mile-an-hour breeze. Curacao up to 30 at the hour. Again, we've had a couple of passing showers, but there's been a lot of dry locations across the ABC Islands for today, and this is just a fantastic shot. I mean, this is how I would like to end my Friday. Aranha Aruba. I love how this camera just slowly pans to kind of twist the knife to let you know you're not there, but you can see that fresh breeze. This is just a gorgeous shot here. This is just a gorgeous beach in general. I'm extremely jealous. I think we all should be, but turquoise in the sky or in the sea, blue in the sky, and they're enjoying a very breezy but dry afternoon. Now, that wasn't the case earlier yesterday. And Ashwin on our Facebook page sent us this photo. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this. Belgestrat? I would say something like that. If it's going to be Oranjestad, we'll say Belgestrat. You guys can let me know in the comment section below if I'm right about that. But here's some of the passing showers they've had in Aruba lately. And, you know, that's been the case where we've had the breeze, but we've also had some showers. And my friends in Bonaire and Curacao have also said, well, you know, Rusty, we haven't got as much rain as Aruba, and things are a little bit different from island to island. And absolutely. But, you know, relatively speaking, the proximity says you're going to have the chance for a couple of showers to go along with Aruba. But everyone here is going to be drying out a bit, and no one is going to be away from that wind. It's going to be a big story. Speaking of staying dry, that's what's happening right now in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. Yes, there's an isolated shower or storm trying to develop, but man, it's few and far between. Hey, trying to get a little bit here just north of the Caicos, right? Temperature trying to fall a bit, but maybe a passing shower there close to Grand Turk, Mayaguana, the Acklands area. And then again, you're just trying to pick out a spotty shower somewhere in the Bahamas, a little bit over the Andros area right now, west of Andros town, trying to get an isolated shower or storm to develop over Little Abaco, maybe drift back over to the eastern sides of Grand Bahama. But again, you're nitpicking here. All the thunderstorms are still over the peninsula of Florida, but you know, we're not really trying to push them closer to the Bahamas. It's going to be a few storms here and there, and it's a gorgeous afternoon in central Eleuthera. Again, I love to show you this camera. Live look on this Friday afternoon there. You can see a few billowing clouds in the distance, but plenty of sunshine over Eleuthera at the hour. Same situation in Long Island. You got those puffy cotton ball fair weather clouds, nice gentle breeze as well. Friends, if you've gotten anything out of this video, I would really appreciate two simple things you can do. Liking this video, which only about 5% of you do. So 5 out of every 100 people hit that like button. If we could just get that to 6 or 7, it would actually tremendously help the channel. The YouTube algorithm loves it. It would actually, promote this channel more on people's homepages. Let's get our community going. I love it. Let's just get those subscriber counts up. And if you haven't subscribed, click that subscribe button for me right now. I appreciate our members, 2 membership tiers, 99 cents a month, get you a supporter tier, custom badges and emojis during our live streams. You want to crank it up a notch. Our new one is called Team MM. For $2.99 a month, you get access, easy for me to say, to exclusive member shorts. I grab my phone, might give you a little preview of what I'm going to be doing in the video, or maybe my thoughts afterwards, or maybe some updates on tropical systems. So I appreciate all of our members, our supporter, and our Team MM members. Okay, let's get into the models and what I expect in the next couple of days. We'll start off here kind of taking a look at our western sides, of course, close to where we still have the remnant moisture from what was Hurricane Eric. Now, we're still going to get widespread showers and storms. There's still a lot of rich moisture in play. This is still going to be a disturbed area, but this is not an area that I'm expecting there to be any big spin or anything, at least in the shorter term. But from Cancun and Cozumel down towards Chechemal, Belize City, and the Bay Islands, Roatan, Utila, Guanaja, a lot of Honduras and Guatemala on over towards Nicaragua, wet conditions will persist. Again, you still have your monsoon trough here. That's going nowhere. So waves of energy. Yes, you have another orange area. It is absolutely possible, if not likely, that they get the 6th named storm of the East Pacific season sometime next week. For our area, it stays wet in these spots. There could still be some locally heavier downpours and some flooding. Again, eventually some of this moisture will try and lift back north and east in a passing sense. It's not like the bulk of the tropical moisture is going to sit over the Cayman Islands and Jamaica, but I do expect there to be a slightly better chance for more widespread rain rather than the local pattern that we've had lately. Again, the local pattern of showers in the morning in the eastern parishes in Jamaica, thunderstorms out west, and a lot of the interior and, southern coastline being relatively dry. I mean, the spots if you've been extremely wet or if you've been extremely dry lately, we've been under that same pattern. Hopefully hopefully that changes up. The large wave and strong wind advisory that's in effect for all of the coastal waters and the offshore waters, including Pedro and Morant Bank, that's probably not going anywhere anytime soon here. And again, a little bit of a kick, a little bit of a bump up in some of the rain because of the axis of that tropical moisture and that wave, which is the north side of it over Hispaniola, moving off towards the west. So, relatively active pattern here. Passing showers will continue over the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Nothing very organized, but we'll still see some passing showers here for Punta Cana and Santo Domingo over the weekend. Still some dry hours and locations, especially for the DR. It's an area that I do expect there to be some locally heavier downpours. So spots of flooding aren't out of the question, especially if it gets over some of the interior, hillier locations and it kind of gets back down into those lower areas, those lower elevations, and then you get some of that quick moving water and some of the flooding that way. We should have some passing showers again for tomorrow for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and then drying out a bit after that. The best chance for rain will actually be tomorrow, and then probably seeing that rain chance fade off a bit for places like Anegada and Jost Van Dyke and on over towards Virgin Gorda, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. Still expecting some rain here in the Leeward Islands, Anguilla, and Antigua and Barbuda. It's still fast moving showers. That pattern just really hasn't changed. We still have a brisk easterly trades. Now, air quality levels could stay in the moderate category for some of these islands. We could still have, some marine advisories from time to time. High surf, high sea conditions could be kicked up 2 to 3 meter waves in a couple of spots. Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, again, the opportunity here for some passing showers, but, a little bit more isolated here. Guadeloupe, Dominica, down towards Martinique. You get to St. Lucia and south, and especially down towards T&T. So the farther south in the Windward Islands you go, the more you're going to be directly influenced by the next tropical wave. Again, I mentioned how, again, these are still, this time of the year, low latitude systems. They haven't gained a lot of north latitude before they move into the Eastern Caribbean. So it is T&T and Grenada and Nueva Esparta that will see the best increase for rain chances late Sunday and into Monday. But places like Grenada and the Grenadines and Barbados will come along for the ride for a little bit more in the way of some widespread showers. Don't get surprised if you catch a marine advisory as well, especially in the eastern and northern sides of the islands. Again, 2 to 3 meter waves, not out of the question. ABC Islands looking relatively dry the next couple of days. Again, a passing shower is possible for Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, but now that the axis of our tropical wave will move west, we'll get back into some drier conditions over the weekend and early next week. Still not seeing a lot here for the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. We had a couple of isolated showers today. That's not out of the question again for the next couple of days, but a big dome of high pressure sits between the Bahamas and Bermuda, and that's keeping things relatively dry. Now, I want you to notice this very broad spin here near and south and east of Bermuda. This is not going to be a tropical system, but it's interesting how that spin can actually bring some really heavy rainfall, but staying south and east of Bermuda. So I actually don't have a lot of higher rain chances in Bermuda, but it's an interesting feature to keep an eye on, if nothing else, but I don't think it gets into anything, too much on the squirrely side for us. So here's what it looks like island by island. For the Bahamas, again, it's an isolated shower, many dry hours and locations, beautiful boating conditions over the weekend. That continues as well. Same thing for my friends in Turks and Caicos, just a slight category higher at 30% chance. Cuba's rain chances are still pretty darn decent, 60 tomorrow, 50 on Sunday and Monday. Cayman Islands aren't bad. 50% chance for passing showers. It's just about whether that local heavy rain gets over the islands. Small islands, big ocean. We'll just see how that plays out. But again, about a 50% chance. Belize, 60% chance, 50 on Sunday and Monday. Cancun and Cozumel, a little bit drier, and then more moisture kind of spins back in on Monday. But, we're down a category or two compared to what we had the last couple of days. I put it a 40% chance over Jamaica. But the big change is, again, the overall pattern, just trying to throw more moisture across the entire island, trying to get some spots that have been dry with better rain chances. Look, it's not a guarantee. Let me be very clear about that. But I think there's a slightly better opportunity just given the way we're trying to change the overall pattern of how this rain is moving in. Dominican Republic, 50% chance tomorrow, 40 on Sunday and Monday. There's your getting drier conditions in Puerto Rico and portions of the Virgin Islands. Again, most of the rain is south and east of Bermuda. Not a horrible chance for rain in Anguilla and St. Kitts and Nevis the next few days, but again, it's not going to add up to much. These showers are racing by with your brisk easterly winds. Antigua and Barbuda, you stick yourself a little bit farther to the east, you got a better chance for some showers over the weekend, then drier on Monday. And that's the general trend, Montserrat down towards Martinique. You're going to see isolated to widely scattered showers throughout the weekend and early in the week. But again, not a ton of rain overall. Now you get down towards Dominica and Martinique, now you start to get back into areas where the clouds get a little bit thicker again, and especially St. Lucia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I do expect more sunshine for tomorrow, and then building clouds back in on Sunday, Monday as the next tropical wave comes in. So now you start to see rain chances down there begin to elevate again on Monday. And that'll be the story for the rest of the islands. Barbados building rain chances to 50% chance on Monday. Grenada up to a 60 on Monday. T&T not looking bad, especially down in Trinidad, with some heavier downpours likely. It gets wet and stormy in Suriname and Guyana, some locally heavy rain possible there. Nueva Esparta's rain chances come back as well, up to a 50 on Monday. And again, the ABC Islands in a lull as far as the overall rain chances go over the next few days, just a 20% chance. My boating friends, take a look at the areas where you see the greens and the yellows. Those are some high sea conditions, central, western sides of the Caribbean, also back into the western Atlantic, pushing into the Lesser Antilles. There's just a ton of wind that will continue to drive through the Caribbean, and this will eventually work its way into the northwest sides of Central America, the Yucatan, and into the southwest Gulf. That is kind of be the general direction of where we're pushing all of this. And you see that? That's probably the F-name storm right there. Flossie coming up next week in the East Pacific. European rainfall totals, very healthy here. You get into the reds, you're in that 4-inch plus total. Still drier Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, areas to the north. Scattered rain, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And again, much higher rain in T&T, Windward Islands, generally speaking, compared up to the Leeward Islands. If we take a look at it here on the GFS model, again, just to kind of give you an idea of what are the values that we're potentially looking at here, and some of this is trying to work its way into the eastern sides of Nicaragua and Honduras, where you could have a foot of rain in a couple of areas here. 14 inches of rain. I mean, you get to 10 inches, that's 250 millimeters. So there could be some, flooding issues to have to concern ourselves with. Costa Rica would be included in this, and portions of Panama. But that's nothing new, unfortunately, for those areas. Still could see some heavier rainfall, coastal Belize, coastal Guatemala, passing heavier downpours, but it could add up to a few inches of rain there. And then eventually down the road, we could pick up some heavier rain in the southwest side of the Gulf. I do expect it to be drier again in the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos. There's your, choice locations, but locally heavy rainfall likely in portions of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Same situation here over portions of Puerto Rico, but again, drying out a little bit. And the farther south you go, in the Lesser Antilles, the better chance you have for some of that heavier rain. And look what's coming. This is just, this is just a preview of what's to come. That moisture that's south and east of T&T right now, and it's almost like, and this is what I named yesterday's video, the tropical wave train. There's your tropical moisture train coming back in, and you give it some time through July, and especially into the early part of August, and these waves get higher north in latitude, and all of that moisture is what slams into our spots. Okay, let's get into the extended forecast here, because again, this is the first time where there's some model agreement as to what I expect for the opportunity here for some showers. So let me bring up, let's go over to the GFS model here. And I want to bring this out all the way to the 30th, and then we'll take a look at the winds associated with it as well. So, we're going to look at the rain, the reflectivity. We're going to take a look at the wind associated with the GFS model, and we'll take a look at what the European model is also plotting at as well. So it's going to do its little song and dance here. If you just want to look at this orange area, which is already a 40% chance for the next area, you're going to see that both on the GFS and the European model, we get it. It wraps up into a pretty tight storm. Now, we'll be monitoring how this could impact, portions of the Pacific coastline of Mexico in the coming days. But, for Central America, the Yucatan itself, we just continue to see moisture kind of spin around that area, but also expand a little bit farther to the north and to the east here. Some of this, again, eventually could slip over Cuba and back into the Bahamas. It'll be a lot more scattered in nature, but there's just more moisture content and quality here in a more expansive fashion. First tropical wave comes in right here. Will continue to skirt its way off towards the west. Second tropical wave is on the heels of that. You can see that building in. You notice how that looks even a little bit more impressive towards the end of the month as well. Again, just a nice swath of moisture, still focused on some choice locations rather than more widespread areas here in the Caribbean, but it's a sign of things beginning to get a little bit more active, and some of that will lift a little bit farther up to the north as well. And again, this spin, you'll see it here doesn't really end up doing very much. Kind of dissipates, moves off, gets picked up by a trough. I don't expect it to do anything. Where I'm focused on is actually the far northwest Caribbean, and especially into the southwest Gulf of Mexico, right towards the end of June. Just starting to see a few more things align here, where this is the area that I'm probably going to be watching. So as we get towards, say the 26th, 27th here in the northwest Caribbean, over the Yucatan, and then in the 29th and the 30th as we get into the far southwest sides of the Gulf. Now, I know it doesn't look like much reflectivity-wise, right? But that's just one part of the story. By the way, there's Flossie for you right there again, spinning up and getting going. But if we take a look at the winds, so I'm going to bring on the surface-based winds here from the GFS model as well. And again, the other story is just how much of a breeze there's going to be. All of this white is 25 to 30 plus mile-an-hour winds. So, you're just blowing everything in such a quick fashion here, right? These tropical waves are coming in one after another here, but we'll let this model take a second and loop up. But again, we'll focus in on this for, first of all, just continued fresh breezes every day. And then, of course, what we want to look for is there any signs of actual rotation trying to develop out of this? And I got to tell you something, this thing is really slow right now. You got to get all the way to the 30th. That's going to take a little bit. All right. While I'm doing that, let's get rid of this formation zones just so we can see that as well. So, look, places like Aruba, Minor, and Curacao, we're going to have 30, 35, maybe even 40 mile-an-hour winds for the near future. I don't see anything really changing out of that. Still going to have your brisk easterlies here as well. And even the winds will freshen up a little bit. Northern signs of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and eventually into Turks and Caicos as well. A little bit more of a wind profile overall trying to get going. So towards the end of this, you'll start to see here some of this wind kind of eke a little bit closer to coastal Belize and Honduras. I'm just going to take this out like this. I should be able to pull it all the way out. All right, so you can see that. First of all, there's the Pacific storm, but notice that you have a lot of wind on the northern coast of the Yucatan and a lot of wind down here. It's because overall you've got a very broad low-level center situated right over the Yucatan and Central America, about a week from now, 8 days from now, right? Obviously, the interaction with land is a limiting factor in trying to get this thing to wrap up. But you can clearly kind of see here how that plays out. Just watch that wind profile. Now, as we get to the 29th and 30th, that moves over the Yucatan, and then what emerges here, right? What comes in here around the 30th? Is there enough time for anything to try and spin up here as we get towards the very last part of June? The GFS model is actually like, there's an opportunity. I showed you that kind of broad brush wind. European model. First of all, say hi to Flossie. I hope it's not, but both models have it developing. And then, same situation here, 29th and 30th, we actually are picking up a signal from the European model of potential development. Kind of again, sneaking off the Yucatan and diving into the Southwest Gulf. So, first real sign, especially from the European model, of some potential development there. That's where I would expect it to be. Again, nothing here, and these tropical waves don't look to do anything but bring us some fresh winds and seas and some rain. And again, this is exactly where we would expect to see the development. Western Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, far western sides of the Atlantic, close to the U.S. East Coast for late June. Be monitoring the situation for you guys. Hey, I appreciate you. Thanks for following us across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, myMediaMundo@gmail.com is the easiest way to do it. You have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comment section below. I'm happy to answer. And of course, please remember that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lane Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. When a storm moves across your area, you get damage, you need some help. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. Friends, thank you so much for liking and subscribing to the channel as well. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you soon with the latest forecast right here at Meteo Mundo.